Hey guys, Lucas from iExplore here. So today we're gonna do the Q&A, finally. Over the last couple of weeks, or was it even months, we've collected a bunch of questions from you guys in the comments on our videos. And today I'm gonna go through them all and answer them as best as I can. So let's get to it. Hey guys, just before we get to the video, we have a quick message from our sponsors.
And that's you guys.
That's right. That's all of you guys who've supported us on Patreon and those of you who've scrolled down to the description and clicked on some of those referral links. Either of those things is a huge help for our channel, so we really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Now, on to the video.
iExplore.
All right, so the first question is from TK414. And the question is, do you ever tire of photographing Tokyo? Where I live in Wisconsin, I am so bored with my city, I find it hard to get out and do street stuff. How do you keep the Tokyo area fresh and exciting and pulling you out to take more photos? Well, now I'm sure the kind of obvious answer, or the first thing people are thinking, like, well, he lives in Tokyo, so it never gets boring, it's always exciting. And there's some truth to that. It's a very big and exciting city. But, you know, when I started doing photography, there were days where I didn't feel inspired, or I didn't have an idea of what to shoot, or I would go to Shinjuku, where we are now, which is basically like the middle of the city, downtown, and I would feel bored and uninspired. So you can feel bored and uninspired no matter what city you shoot in. And the way to get around that, or to fix that problem, is to just go out and shoot. That's the answer. So over time I learned that if I just go out and shoot, even if I'm not feeling it, even if I'm already here and I'm shooting for an hour, 2 hours, and it's just not going well, I'm not getting any good photos, I just gotta keep going. Or I give up for the day and come back another day. But the point is, if you put the hours in, eventually inspiration and ideas come. And I'm, you know, even though I've been shooting Tokyo so long, more than 10 years, I feel more excited and inspired about the city today than I did when I was starting out, when everything was more fresh. And that's because I was able to go deeper and deeper and deeper. So that's my answer, just got to get out and shoot. So Robin Noah asks, which of your photos do you like most? Okay, well that's kind of a hard question, but also in a sense an easy question. So first, before I say which ones, I want to say why I like these photos in a broad sense. Of course, they all have, you know, good composition, or at least I think the composition is pretty good. You know, nice colors, the moment's interesting, all that stuff. But I have lots of photos that I feel the same about. I have that same opinion of them. These specific ones I like the most because they are not repeatable. So not only are they decisive moments, but I feel like even if I tried really hard to go back to the same spot and try to reproduce the same photo, I think it would be impossible. And so my favorite photos in general are these not repeatable photos. So, you know, I've been probably showing them the whole time as I answer the question, but they are photos like of this lady in Shibuya, this lady with the yellow dress, these two guys behind a pane of glass with their silhouette, and these are all pretty old. I took them a long time ago, so they were kind of the early examples of this unrepeatability that I just mentioned. But here's a recent one. This one I took in 2020, and it's this taxi driver and a kind of a silhouette of him as he was driving past. And I was very excited when I took this one, especially because I just knew there's no way I would ever get this photo again. So yeah, there you go. Those are some of my favorite photos that I've ever taken. The next question is, Per Gunnar Eriksson asks, let's say you land in a new country, a new culture, and you're only there for a couple of weeks. You know, how do you avoid coming away from that visit with something other than the cliche photos that you initially shoot, you know, faced with a new exciting culture and land? So basically, how to avoid taking the touristy photos. And to me, you know, the answer is very straightforward. Don't follow the tourists. If the tourists are going that way, you go the other way. Now that's a little bit of a, you know, tongue-in-cheek joke answer, but I think that actually does kind of work. The other thing is to use times of day that tourists are not around so much. So I'll give a concrete example. In 2018, I visited Dubrovnik in Croatia, which is a, you know, famous, beautiful city. Of course, it's an extremely touristy destination, packed with people. I went in the summer, so it was loads of tourists. And of course, during the day, we went to some of the touristy spots, you know, the places where they shot Game of Thrones and stuff like that, because why not? We're there, okay. But also, I made a point of getting up around 4 or 5 a.m. just before dawn, before there were any tourists out, which they kind of started around 8 or 9, and just exploring those same touristy spots at this different time of day, where everything was totally different. So, and what did I discover? I discovered a lot of interesting scenes with cats. There's loads of cats all over Dubrovnik, wandering around, even during the day when the tourists are out. But of course, you don't get as interesting photos when there's all these tourists trying to, you know, snap photos of them or pet them or whatever. So there you go. And I was only there for 5 days, and I think if I had stayed there for a couple of weeks, I would have enough photos of cats to maybe publish a book about Dubrovnik's cats. Okay? So there you go. Just try to think in a way like whatever the tourists are doing, I'm not going to do that, and you'll naturally find situations and subjects that are, interesting and not so cliche. Next question. William Bodie asks, how do you feel about correcting perspective in software? I realized I use it a lot because I like straightening out the view, but it feels a bit like cheating. Well, I mean, it is a bit like cheating, but that's okay. Who's keeping score? Because it really doesn't matter. It's your art. You create it how you want. And so for me, yeah, I correct perspective sometimes. Certainly when I'm shooting anything that's kind of architectural or geometric, I will regularly fix the the vertical perspective. So if I'm aiming a little bit up or a little bit down, I fix that in Adobe Camera Raw or Lightroom, which has the same features. For street photos, like photos that I consider to be street photos, I give myself slightly different rules. I'm less eager to correct such things. I'll do it too occasionally if I really feel it enhances the photo, but I try to keep those as natural as possible. Having said that, I do correct things like lens distortion, right? And I mean, that's a similar kind of thing, but not quite the same thing, right? I feel like it's more okay to fix the distortion than it is the perspective. But having said all that, I mean, it's art. You're free to do whatever you want. I don't feel limited by any external rules, so don't let me tell you what to do. I just make rules for myself because I want to have sort of creative boxes where this is a street photo, it has these rules. This is an architectural photo, it has these rules. So these are creative constraints for myself. Otherwise, it's like a slippery slope. It's like, well, if I'm going to correct the perspective, well, maybe I will, clone out, or fix this other thing, or maybe I don't like the color, so I'll change the color, and you start to go crazy, and then it's like now it's digital art and not a photo anymore. So I just draw lines for myself, and I recommend you do the same for yourself. Okay, and this question is from Tommy C. Do you consider a photo to be a true street photo if the subject has people in it, or if the main subject is a person? So I'll be honest, I think the question's worded a little weirdly. I guess the question should actually be, is it a true street photo if it doesn't have people in it? Or I guess if the question is, do you need people in a street photo for it to be a street photo? And I would say no. I think you don't necessarily need to have people, but I think in many ways it helps, because some of the qualities of a street photo are like, it needs to be candid, it needs to have a decisive moment. Well, it's hard to have those things without a person, because that's what candid means. You're getting like an honest view into a person's life. And a decisive moment, it can happen without people, with like other elements, right? With birds or something flying through. You definitely have some decisive photos without people, but honestly, people make it a little bit easier. But you know what the real answer is? The real answer is a street photo is whatever you make it out for yourself to be. You need to come up with your own ideas and constraints about street photography, and then go with that. So I have my own rules, and actually will eventually publish a video about exactly this topic. But yeah, just decide for yourself. If you want to have people in your photos, great. If you think it's better without people, great. To give some concrete examples, by the way, there are lots of photographers that do photos with people in them, so I don't even need to mention those. But a couple of photographers that often have scenes without people, and I would consider them to be street photographers, are one is William Eggleston, who has tons of great scenes of no people at all. I think a lot of people wouldn't call him a street photographer, but I do consider him one. And Saul Leiter has plenty of scenes without people as well in his work, or where people play a very small part in the scene. They're kind of a vague, distant part. Siegfried Hansen, another one, who has tons of photos where people play either a very small part, although they're an important part of the photo, but in terms of the size in the image, or you just see their foot or something. Or photos that he has with just no people at all, just the geometry and stuff. And I would consider him a street photographer. So to say that his photo with the person is a street photo and without the person is not a street photo, or vice versa, is kind of weird. All of it is street photography. All right? So I hope that answers your question. So Satan Sapimpa asks, what Japanese city would you choose to spend some time shooting a full photography series project? It can't be Tokyo. Yeah, the easy answer would be Osaka, which is kind of a lot like Tokyo. But let's make it a different answer. I would actually say, I don't know if I could choose a single city, but there's a lot of cities that I've never been to in Japan, even after all these years of living here, that I would love to visit. Those are Hiroshima, Nagasaki, Fukuoka, in places like that. I would love to travel around the less, beaten paths, less traveled paths of Japan and discover some places. But if I had to just choose one city, it would probably be Osaka, because it has a lot of similarities to Tokyo, but it's also different. So I'm kind of fascinated by it. And even though I've been there 10 times or so, I don't feel I really got to know that city well enough. Kato H. Des asks, what are your 3 favorite movies, favorite books, or a writer? And I would say my favorite movies, I don't know if it's my 3 favorite movies, but just some of my favorite movies are Fight Club, Fifth Element, Ghost in the Shell, of course Blade Runner, and movies like that. Generally I like sci-fi movies quite a lot. 2001, another great one. In terms of books and writers, I don't have a single favorite writer, but in terms of books, I'll mention 2. One is the more obvious one. I love Neuromancer, a very famous book, kind of the beginning of the cyberpunk genre, for obvious reasons. Same reason I like Blade Runner and Ghost in the Shell and those movies. But another book that I really love that has nothing to do with this kind of stuff is Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse, which is a great story about kind of Buddhist philosophy and things like this. And I found it a very interesting book. I learned a lot from this book. And I think I even apply some of those ideas, at least subconsciously, to my photography when I'm out shooting. Okay, Edwin 1947D asks, just curious, how did you end up living in Japan and how did you learn the language? Just by being immersed in it for a span of time or something more formal? So I came to Japan in 2007 for the first time. I was an exchange student actually, so I was a university student at my university and a university in Tokyo called Sophia University have an exchange program, and so I came here for a semester. I studied Japanese at that time. I had already been taking a little bit of Japanese in college, but honestly my Japanese was awful in these days still. It was basically not useful at all. I went back to the States, I graduated from university, and then I didn't know what to do with my life. And I knew that you could teach English in Japan because I had met some people who were doing that while I was here on exchange. And I thought, that'll be fun. Let's just go back to Japan for a year or 2 and be an English teacher, and then go back to America and get a real job. That was what I was thinking. And then fast forward 13 years and I'm still here. So basically over time, yeah, I got into photography, I did some other stuff, started a business with Axel, the guy behind the camera, and now I'm basically permanently here. And along the way, yeah, I just learned the language mostly by being immersed in it, but there were a few times where I took some classes for like 1 or 2 months, and then I took a big break, and then 1 or 2 months again, and that helped my Japanese improve quite a lot. I also study kanji, the writing system, pretty much every day using an app called Wanikani. Really good app, I recommend it. But my Japanese, in my opinion, is still pretty crap. Like I can have daily conversations and restaurants, shopping, that kind of stuff. But things like maybe going to the bank is fine, doing my taxes at the tax office is kind of okay, but then going to the doctor is impossible. So I need my wife to come with me and help me out. So basically, yeah, Japanese, still working on it. I'm slow to improve. Yeah. All right, guys. So that's it. There we have it. Answers to those questions that we got over the last few weeks. I hope you found them interesting. Some of them were a little short. Some of them I went a little more into detail. If you have any other questions, put them in the comments below. I don't know if we'll be doing another Q&A video. I think we'll see how well this one is received, but I'll definitely answer them in the comments. So I'm always happy to answer questions. In fact, interacting with you guys in the YouTube comments is a pleasure of mine, and I actually think it's a big part of what I like about doing this channel and making these videos is getting questions, getting feedback. Sometimes I get great ideas from you guys, so let's keep those discussions going. All right, so thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next video, and remember always, challenge your eye. Oh hey guys, you're still here. Wow. You must be a huge fan of iExplore to watch all the way to the end of the video. We really appreciate that. That's a huge help because it makes our videos more popular because the YouTube algorithm cares about these kinds of things. But since I have your attention still, I hope you know that we do have a Patreon and also YouTube channel memberships. And if you sign up with either of those, you could get access to our Tokyo Photo Spot map. Also, if you're interested in any of the gear that I use in the videos or also some of the gear that we use to shoot the videos, all of the referral links for that stuff is in the description below. And if you click on those, that also helps us out immensely. Finally, we do sell some merch. We have iExplore branded t-shirts, and also on my own personal homepage, I sell prints. So if that interests you, again, links in the description below. But just the fact that you guys watched all the way to the end, we really appreciate. So thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you guys in the next video.